Our primary job at Catholic Charities is to be an authentic Catholic voice on human dignity while we serve the poor and vulnerable. Being an authentic voice sometimes means saying things that might be hard to say and hard to hear. But I'd like to try and share that authentic voice as best I can right now. We will all likely be telling our grandchildren about what we did and where we were in the year 2020. When we do, it'll be about more than just the coronavirus. The current conversation, protest, and actions related to the topic of racism and racial injustice in our country has become part of the story we will tell of this moment in history. When it comes to the topic of racism, I need to speak from the heart as a human being, speak as a Catholic, and speak as the CEO of Catholic Charities. Watching what has unfolded and listening to the voices of the marginalized since the death of George Floyd has changed me in a way that is likely long overdue. It has made me realize some important things about my own life that maybe I always knew, but never truly embraced with enough blunt truth. I am a racist. That's the hard truth. I am a racist. How could I not be? As a white person living in America, where every institution is geared to advantage people who look like me, it's seemingly impossible for me to be anything other than a racist. I know that I have routine bias, even if it is unconscious bias, as we all do. But I also believe that my bias is dangerously different. My bias, the bias of white people, supports and feeds into powerfully racist systems in our country. As a Catholic who believes in reconciliation, I must own my part in that and treat it like any other sin. I must know it, name it, speak it, ask for forgiveness for it while trying to eliminate it from my life. For me, as a white person, saying I'm not a racist is like saying a fish is not wet. In America, racism is no longer a question, but rather it's the toxic water in which we all swim. We are all treading water in this shortcoming, whether we want to know it or not. My Catholic Church and my Catholic Charities organization is racist. How could they not be? Our Catholic faith tradition was built on the premise that a baby born in a manger in the Middle East was a white baby. So how can we be surprised to know that we are a church that must still fight against racism even now? The Catholic Church in the United States has its own long, terrible history of owning slaves, staying silent about others who did the same, running Indian schools, and being part of the institutionalization of racism. We can't avoid that reality until we speak it and ask for forgiveness with a love that takes action to repair. Our own Catholic Charities organization that does so much good and fights for so much justice still has also been unknowingly part of the institutionalization of racism. Here at Catholic Charities, we have a staff, a leadership team, and a board that is mostly white, even though those we serve are often disproportionately people of color. We need to be better than that. We at Catholic Charities, even in our love for serving others, are still at the same time part of the problem. Recent events in our country have now given us a new sense that we must own our place in the problem before we can be part of the solution. Being anti-racist means fighting against racism wherever you find it, including in yourself. So now we must fight. We must even fight ourselves as part of that struggle for the common good. The death of George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter movement is a watershed moment in our country's history, and as such needs to be a watershed moment in the working future of Catholic Charities. Like everything we do, we ground ourselves in our Catholic faith as we chart a path to respond to this unprecedented moment. So we look to Pope Francis, who has told us just in the past week, we cannot close our eyes to any form of racism or exclusion while pretending to defend the sacredness of every human life. Defending the sacredness of human life is what we desire to do every single day here. So at Catholic Charities, we need to seize this historical moment to continue to open our eyes and to act concretely on the issues of racism and identify and challenge their clear connection to things like homelessness, immigration, the death penalty, and poverty. Catholic Charities supports Black Lives Matter. We simply cannot stand outside of something as significant as this movement, even though we know full well there may be a price to pay for walking into it. We must walk in anyway now. In its purest nonviolent form, it is a Christ-like movement that honors the Church's teaching that we must give a preferential option to those who are marginalized. Black lives have been marginalized for too long, and we at Catholic Charities have done a lot, but still have not done enough or said enough about it all for too long. A time of change is sweeping over us. Change for the inequities of the economy, the educational system, and especially the criminal justice system. We need to be part of supporting that change. At Catholic Charities, we commit to listening to our Black and brown communities and being open to hearing feedback on our own faults and how we can do things differently moving forward. We commit to intentionally and aggressively being a part of the movement to fight for racial justice. We will find new and specific ways to share our resources, our expertise, our leadership, our voice, and our mission with people in Black and brown communities all over Eastern Washington in a way that better honors the struggle and the trauma those communities have endured for so long. Only through intentional, aggressive, assertive action can we truly be an organization that's anti-racist. We must embrace this action and hold ourselves accountable for it if we are to be truly authentic as a voice for human dignity. Please forgive us our trespasses and please embrace us. Please lock arms with us and walk with us on this path towards healing and towards a justice that loves.